Go.
We have now shifted to task 2, prompt 2 in rubric 6. You'll notice that we've skipped over prompt 1 because all you're asked to do there is to identify the lessons in the sequence where your video clip or video clips came from. So it's sufficient in that response to just identify those. You don't need to go into much more detail than that, and then shift down into prompt 2. This is connected with rubric 6, so the items that you'll want to have available for you are, for prompt 2, your task 2 instructional commentary template, so that's where you'll be typing your answers in. And rubric 6, you can find that in your Understanding Rubric Progressions PDF in the Google Drive folder. And so these two are connected. So when a scorer is trying to work through to see how you did on rubric 6, they'll check your response to prompt 2, as well as the video clips that you cite in your response. So that'll be the evidence source. So these are the key elements for you to consider as you're working through this particular prompt. I would suggest, as you're framing your answer, to take a look at your videos and to kind of put here maybe the timestamps for the evidence that you would use to respond to these different parts of the question. So the first piece is looking at how you're demonstrating respect for students. So with these two terms, we can see it's something that you're doing for your students. It's much more interested in what you have done rather than an exchange or interplay between you and a student. So if we're looking at the Understanding Rubric Progressions, they give the example of you're calling students by their first name, using a modulated voice, attentive listening by repeating or restating student responses. So those are examples of types of respect, and if you have those in your video, you would then cite them in this part of the response and then explain how they are an example of you showing respect for your students. Moving next to demonstrating rapport. Rapport with. So because we have this with included, it's more of an exchange. So it's a conversation between you and a student that displays some sort of affinity or an easy give and take of ideas. The example they give in the Understanding Rubric Progressions, evidence of relationship between candidate and students, and or ease of interaction that goes back and forth based on relevance or engaged conversation. So this is a dialogue, this is a give and take. So with this, you would be citing evidence that would include both your actions as well as student actions, because you're trying to show evidence of this conversation, this rapport with. Next, we're moving to responsiveness to. And so with this piece, it's the students demonstrate some sort of need and you are attending to that particular need. So it could be a student asking a particular question and you being able to answer that question and assist them. It could be a student not even specifically asking for something, but you perhaps noticing that there is some need, maybe with student grouping or student not really understanding instructions, and you assist and provide a secondary explanation. So it's you identifying some sort of need that the students have and responding to that. And this is a place where you could choose something from a video clip and then provide additional context in your answers that shows how it is responsiveness. And it's that context that would really help to address this part of the question. The final piece is a place where you would be able to move from a 3 to a 4 or a 5 on your EdTPA response for this particular rubric. And that is to challenge students to engage in learning. And so looking at Understanding Rubric Progressions, once again, it says that you are doing things such as asking higher order thinking questions, trying to help students apply their initial thinking to another context, and using wait time in such a way where students couldn't initially respond to the question. Perhaps you use wait time, perhaps you then ask a follow-up question or a clarifying question that allows them to engage in a higher order way. And so it's this part of the prompt that would help you to move from a 3 to a 4 or a 5. Compared to task 1, you're sailing, you're cruising. You're through 2 prompts, you're through 1 rubric. Now, moving forward.